16 years ago, during my time in elementary school, a significant event unfolded in April when our classes were reshuffled. I found myself in a new class under the guidance of a young teacher named Miss. It was during lunchtime in this new setting that a poignant incident occurred. Miss, our homeroom teacher, addressed a girl seated beside me named Helen Rachel, advising her not to consume the school-provided lunch because her family had not paid for it since the previous fall. Helen, a frail and underprivileged girl, often adorned in worn-out clothes, had fallen victim to financial constraints within her family. Although she had enjoyed school lunches in the previous academic year, the situation had changed, leaving her sitting alone with an empty desk during lunch. Witnessing this, I couldn't bear to see her in such a state, so I discreetly wrapped a portion of my lunch and left it on my desk for her. After lunch, when the classroom was empty, I approached Helen and handed her the concealed meal, suggesting, "You can eat this." Grateful, she asked, "What can I thank you, Kevin?" At that time, I was somewhat of an outcast among my classmates, lacking friends in the same class. However, this small act of kindness marked the beginning of a connection between Helen and me. When I returned home that day, I shared Helen's family situation with my mother, who empathized with her plight. I requested that my mother make an extra lunchbox for Helen. Understanding the importance of proper nutrition for Helen's well-being, my mother gladly agreed, extending our small act of kindness. The following day, as I presented Helen with my mother's homemade lunchbox, her eyes widened in surprise. Gratefully, she exclaimed, "Is this for me?" I reassured her, explaining that my mother knew about her situation and wanted her to have it. As our friendship developed, I discovered more about Helen's struggles. Her father didn't work, spending money on gambling and leaving her mother to bear the financial burden alone. Despite their hardships, Helen's mother worked diligently, earning money that was unfortunately mismanaged by her father. Witnessing Helen's daily struggles, clad in the same tattered clothes, I couldn't help but feel compassion for her. Our classmates observed her from a distance, unaware of the challenges she faced daily. From that day forward, I decided to accompany Helen on her way home, providing a support system for her amidst the difficulties she faced. Similarly, Helen and I found ourselves without friends. In response, we began meeting in the mornings and walking to school together, both part of the Gleason class. Questions about our relationship arose, but I tried not to let them bother me. Communication had never been my strong suit, yet for some reason, I felt at ease talking to Helen. Unbeknownst to me, my loneliness had become apparent, and I found solace in our conversations. Talking to Helen brought me immense joy. Our discussions covered a myriad of topics, ranging from family and favorite fruits to animals, homework, and TV shows. I discovered her love for cats, a passion she couldn't indulge in at home. Despite being unable to keep a cat, she found joy in occasionally visiting a nearby shrine, a favorite spot for stray cats. One day, I invited her to see the cat at my place. Bringing her home, my mother welcomed her warmly. Helen's eyes lit up when she saw the cat, named Walter, and she happily played with him, feeding him treats. Witnessing her genuine smile, a rarity at school, brought a sense of happiness to me as well. As days passed, Helen started having dinner at our house every night. Her mother returned late from work, and her father, present at home, neglected housework. Recognizing Helen's predicament, my mother took on the responsibility of ensuring she had a meal every night. After about a year, Helen's life took a turn. Her parents divorced, and she had to move to her mother's family home in another state. Before the move, Helen and her mother visited our house to bid farewell. Expressing gratitude, Helen's mother thanked us repeatedly, acknowledging our kindness. In response, my mother reassured her, saying it was a pleasure to have Helen with us. Emphasizing that in times of trouble we support each other, my mother alleviated any concerns they might have had. The farewell left an indelible mark on us, and Helen's mother's words of appreciation echoed in our hearts. My mother, a person with a strong sense of justice and kindness, commands my deep respect. However, the memory of the conversation I had with Helen during that time has faded, and I haven't seen her since that day. Although we exchanged Christmas cards for 5 or 6 years, that tradition gradually ceased. After graduating from university, I secured a job at a precision machinery manufacturer, joining the sales department where I am currently in my 3rd year. Over the years, I've taken over existing businesses and developed new ones, now overseeing a portfolio of clients. One morning, Mr. Jacob, a senior colleague sitting next to me, greeted me and informed me about an upcoming business meeting with a crucial client, Blue Wave Electric, scheduled for tomorrow. The success of this meeting could significantly impact the company's future, and all necessary preparations had seemingly been completed. However, during our conversation, Mr. Jacob received an urgent call from his clerk about Blue Wave Electric. As soon as he picked up the phone, his expression shifted to one of shock and distress. It became apparent that there was a critical error in conveying the meeting details, causing Blue Wave Electric to believe it was scheduled for the previous day. They were furious, convinced that we had canceled the meeting without notification. Mr. Jacob, visibly shaken, explained that the blame for this mishap fell on me. He accused me of providing incorrect information about the meeting schedule. Despite my attempts to clarify that he had informed me of the revised schedule, he insisted on shifting the blame onto me. In reality, Mr. Jacob had adjusted his schedule without consulting me and later informed me about it. Now he was attempting to deflect responsibility onto me. Despite Mr. Jacob reporting the mistake to his supervisor and the section manager personally apologizing to Blue Wave Electric, the damage was irreparable. The deal with Blue Wave Electric ultimately fell through, marking a significant setback for the company. Upon the return of the section manager, Mr. Scott, he confronted me, blaming me for the catastrophic failure of a crucial deal for the company's future. "Kevin, what have you done? Because of you, an important deal has been ruined, jeopardizing the company's future. What the hell are you going to do about it?" Mr. Scott's angry tirade began, with the threat of termination hanging over my head. "But Mr. Scott, it wasn't me who contacted them about the schedule. It was Mr. Jacob," I protested. "Shut up. Don't make excuses. You've caused damage to the company. You're going to get fired." Mr. Scott's tendency to speak forcefully when angry became apparent. Desperate to salvage my job, I pleaded, "Wait a minute. I don't want to quit my job." "Then go get a contract for the same amount of money that was going to sell to Blue Wave Electric within 3 days. Otherwise, you're fired." "That's impossible within 3 days. It's impossible," I protested, feeling overwhelmed by the seemingly insurmountable task. However, a sudden realization struck me. There was a potential customer considering purchasing the same machine as the one intended for Blue Wave Electric. Despite their consistent efforts to negotiate a discount, I had almost given up on them, assuming they weren't interested. With no other choice, I decided to pursue this option. I hastily revised the quotation and secured an appointment with the client. Upon arriving at the client company, I discovered that Mr. Jack was in charge. Presenting the new quotation, he immediately questioned whether we could offer a lower price. "It is indeed difficult to go any further. We have already adjusted the price many times," I explained, making a troubled expression. Mr. Jack seemed unconvinced, expressing concern about his superiors not approving the price. Desperate, I pleaded with him, emphasizing the benefits our equipment would bring to his company, and promising regular maintenance as well. "Even so, my superiors won't give me the okay at this price," Mr. Jack sighed. "I'd be willing to discuss the situation with your boss. Could we meet over dinner or something?" I desperately proposed, hoping for a chance to explain and negotiate. Mr. Jack hesitated but agreed to consult his boss. He mentioned his boss's busy schedule, but I insisted on the importance of the opportunity. Finally, he agreed to discuss the matter and promised to get back to me later. Leaving the reception room with a glimmer of hope, I encountered an elderly man entering the office as the elevator opened. "Oh, there's Mr. Peter, my boss, just in time. May I have a word with you?" Mr. Jack rushed up to him as soon as he spotted his boss. "Ah, so this is Mr. Jack's boss," I thought. Mr. Jack explained the situation to Mr. Peter, the department manager. To my surprise, Mr. Peter suddenly started yelling at me. "Do you think winning and dining with us will seal the deal with your company? How many times do I have to tell you that we can't buy at that price? If you can't get a better price, get the hell out of here. Don't come back again." Yeah. I couldn't fathom what I had done to deserve such a scolding. While I was puzzled, Mr. Jack pushed my back and whispered in my ear, "I'm sorry, my boss. He seems to be in a bad mood today. He always takes it out on someone when he's in a bad mood. This department manager has a very nasty personality. But if I don't get his approval, the deal won't go through. If I don't secure this contract, I'll be fired." As I pondered my next steps, footsteps approached from the corridor, echoing with the click of heels. "Wait a minute, Mr. Peter," a young woman's voice interrupted. I turned around to see a beautiful woman in a suit. "Miss, may I help you with something?" she said, stepping confidently in front of the department manager who tilted his head. "Mr. Peter, I have looked at their company's information materials, and I think their equipment would be useful for us. I hope you will positively consider purchasing it." She looked Mr. Peter straight in the eye and said, "Oh well, I see. If it's as you say, then by all means, let's purchase it. Go ahead with the contract procedure right away." Mr. Peter turned to me and said, So, huh? I couldn't reply immediately, struggling to understand what had just transpired. Are you saying you want to purchase it? He pressed. Yes, I do. I can't deny the president's daughter's request. The president's daughter? I thought, perplexed. As I looked at her, she smiled and said, Kevin, long time no see. Do you remember me? Even though I couldn't recall at first, as I stared at her face, a vague familiarity dawned on me. Would you recognize me if I said Helen Rachel? She asked. Do you mean the Helen Rachel who used to come to my house and play with me in elementary school? I didn't recognize her immediately. She looked so beautiful and different. Oh, it's been a long time. It's been like 16 years, she remarked. Yes, it has been like that. I saw your business card attached to the file and I thought it might be yours. You were right, but you're the president's daughter? I exclaimed. My mother remarried when I was in high school. I adopted the unique surname of my newfound father, a fact that struck me as uncommon. Unaware of this peculiarity initially, I expressed a reluctance to linger and chat, suggesting that we venture out for a drink that evening to catch up. Agreeing to the plan, we swiftly exchanged contact information and committed to the post-work rendezvous. Upon my return to the office, I relayed the positive outcome to Mr. Scott, who displayed a wide-eyed and surprised reaction. He inquired about the contract, and I confirmed that although we hadn't received it yet, we had secured approval from the department manager. Mr. Scott praised my performance, expressing delight, while Mr. Jacob seemed uncomfortable at his desk. Later that evening, after work, I headed to the bar to meet Helen, who was already there waiting for me. Grateful for her assistance, she credited me with saving her job, recounting the unfair blame she had received from a colleague. Helen sympathized with my predicament and expressed gratitude for the business deal. During our conversation, Helen revealed that she had moved back after her mother's divorce. Her mother had married a man who later became the manager of the sales office. Subsequently, they relocated to New York to succeed her husband's father as the president. Apologizing for not informing me of her return, Helen mentioned my lack of response to Christmas greeting cards. I admitted my oversight and explained that I had hesitated, thinking she might have a girlfriend. Learning that I was currently unattached, Helen whimsically suggested that our reunion might be fate and proposed going on a date. Surprised by her confession, I welcomed the idea. Reflecting on our past, I recalled the joy of being with her during our elementary school days. As she extended her right hand, I gladly accepted and thus began our dating journey. 2 years later, I proposed, and we happily got married. Now, as we enjoy a chocolate dinner together, Helen, while playing with her cat, appears unchanged from her childhood. Despite the hardships she endured in her early years, I am committed to supporting her and ensuring her happiness in the years to come.